So this is my book review for The War on Normal People. So Andrew Yang is talking about in this book a future that has AI and automation going through the roof. And this isn't going to be like a Terminator situation where the robots, come out with robotic exoskeletons, but rather this is a situation where we as humans have actually automated our usefulness out of the marketplace. It's a really, really depressing book. I work in the tech field, and I've been interested in AI and technology, all this kind of stuff. I've been thinking about it for a while because of my family. Here he puts down a lot of facts. It's a lot of data points, a lot of studies, and some of it's not even questionable, right? Like, this is just a fact, right? These are the number of jobs that have already been displaced. These are the places where they were most automated away from. Just what are the stats as they are right now, and from there, what can we predict? But even the way things are right now, it's pretty crazy. What I did not expect to learn from the book was that white collar jobs would be automated away. I think I was very aware that most blue collar jobs, when I tend to think of like factory work and that kind of stuff, would be automated away. Anything that is a very mechanical process or can somehow be done repetitively, but involves a lot of manual labor, I figured that could be removed pretty quick. What I was not expecting was, or really thinking that hard about, was the AI inside the white collar positions. Everything from a radiologist, where normally radiologists they compare a bunch of different scans to look for anomalies, tumors, and stuff. And simply put, the computer can do it better, faster, compare 1,000, and see shades of gray the human eye can't see. So much so that the radiology profession, for those new doctor entrants, that's not a field that they're choosing. They're actually telling doctors what fields are going to be, automated away, or at least, drastically reduce their salary. There's also paralegals and lawyers. Apparently, a lot of the documentation work they do, a lot of it's documentation, copy, paste, make some small modifications, and a lot of that can be automated away. AI is very, very different from previous industrial revolutions because it learns and it can problem solve in ways that simply, it's not just a robot doing the same repetitive task. It can actually figure things out and do complex things that normally we would associate with just humans. Only humans can do that. That's too difficult for a robot. What I really liked about the book was it was talking about the things that we thought can't be automated away, and just how soon it's going to be automated away. So we all know automated truck driving is going to be a thing, and he comes up with some various ideas and techniques of how that process will begin. But be sure, it's definitely really going to happen, and the trucking industry knows it. And in a lot of states, that's one of the main things as far as jobs go, as professions go. And then there's cashiers, which is another very, very common job. I think it's like number 3. And then another job that's the most common is call center workers. And the whole point of the book is to talk about this gigantic displacement, this great displacement, where once things start working, once AI starts taking over, it'll be very exponential. So there's, all the people who work in the call center, they'll start testing out with a few robots once the voice AI is good to go. And Google's already close with duplex. Once it's at the right point, then they'll test it out a little bit. Okay, cool, that's good. fire everybody. It'll be a very, very immediate thing and very exponential across the board. Same thing with the trucks. There'll be a gradual change and then an exponential one once it's been proven proof of concept. Cashiers, we're already seeing cashiers, disappear, and once it's at a certain point, even more. And he talks about a lot of ideas that we would immediately think, right? Like, well, why don't we stop robots? Why don't we tax robots? Why don't we do all these things? And then there's very logical reasons you can't do that. You can't tax robots because defining what a robot is can be very complicated, right? Is a kiosk a robot? What if it's the machine a cashier is using? What is the specificity? And every department of every job has its own unique setup. It's very hard to have nice kind of criteria. So it's very difficult to tax or to kind of get some of that specifications as far as like, well, only these kinds of machines. That doesn't mean anything. Another idea would be to stop or prevent robots from happening. But then, of course, we lose to the global marketplace. In China, they're encouraging it, and anywhere else in the world that's not going to slow down their automation is going to beat us in the free market. So we're actually just shooting ourselves in the foot by trying to put restraints on production. Other things that he talks about that are very interesting is, let's just scroll in here. He talks about a lot of other ideas involved, and just a lot of stats. A lot of the book talks about stats. So one thing is that, the health of children. If a child, they basically see if there's a lot of evidence to show that families who stay together can encourage easier development for the children, and one of the number one reasons for divorce is economic stress. A lot about economic stress is a factor that attributes to everything from abuse to unhealthy relationships, to just a lot of problems. So one of the cornerstones, this guy's running for president, and one of the cornerstones that he has, and he mentions actually not until like towards the end of the book. I would say about 75% of this book is just about like, here's what's going on, here's what's going on, here's what's going on, here's where we see it going, here's some changes that would be great to see, and then here's this idea called UBI, and here's some of the things it can address. And basically, he talks a lot about his platform, but specifically with the UBI part, he talks about how it could drastically affect all these different factors, all these different sections. And, of course, I was immediately hesitant as far as like, yeah, but what about inflation? What about, motivation to work? What about, people abusing the system? What about all these things? And the guy is like a step ahead of you, and kind of like, your concerns are probably going to be this, and this. And so he addresses all of them. He isn't shy to avoid what about inflation, and he explains why it won't cause inflation. What about the costs of rent going up? And he's like, it's not going to do that because of these reasons. And it's a very, very good book, and it actually got me to support his campaign. It's very clear he's talking about technology and bring it to the forefront. Now, this book is not about him running for president, but it does talk a lot about some of the things that he talks about in his campaign. One of the things that was very interesting I found that he talks about is this brain drain idea. And so what that is that you get the best, smartest people that you can, and you're actually draining them out throughout the United States, and focusing them into specific pockets of the United States. So, for example, if you are somebody from like Alabama and 4.0 GPA, best in your class, you get a full scholarship, you're going to do your college setup and go into a competitive financial field. And most of the jobs that you're going to be kind of looking for to compensate for that student debt, or just to get good economic means, is going to be in one of the major cities, right? So you're going to be on the coast, or you're going to be in one of the large major cities. And you don't always come back to where you started. And what ends up happening is you have these pockets with some of the smartest minds, but you're draining those resources out instead of them returning back to the different areas throughout the United States they were originally from, and building new business ventures there, building new enterprises there, building up those places. You're just compounding and making stronger those city areas. So it was a very, very interesting thought that I didn't really think about, and it's kind of an interesting observation. One thing that he also talks about is this idea of like everything from lobbying inside of politics, and essentially money always finds a way back. So an idea is like you give every U.S. citizen, like adult, $100 to spend only on campaigns, and you can flush out by a factor of like 8 to 1 all the lobbyist money. It becomes too expensive for lobbyists to compete, and then you have your citizens' values aligned with the politician who's aligning with them. And it's a very interesting idea, and it's actually quite a genius one in my opinion. The book, I would say, is about automation and AI, but it's really geared towards people of the United States, because it talks about the specific issues that we have, everything from the healthcare crisis to student debt issues to entrepreneurial issues, and some of the main issues that entrepreneurs face. The guy's background is an entrepreneur, and a lot of his book is really geared around, how do we encourage business? How do we make more businesses? How do we encourage entrepreneurship? How to make it easier for entrepreneurs? That's basically what the whole thing's about. And so he goes through a lot of stuff, and really the book is geared towards Americans because of the unique problems that Americans face. And anybody can read it, but if you're an American citizen or on the route to be there, this is a book I would highly suggest you read. So the author's name, like I said, is Andrew Yang. The name of the book is The War on Normal People. There should be a link below. Please listen to it. It's actually a fairly, I don't know, it's a fairly short book, only a couple hours. And it's really, really interesting. And you may not agree with all of his solutions, but you'll definitely have to agree with all of his problems that he's pointing out, that this is going to be an issue, that this is going to be automated away. These are the effects that it's going to have on the population. He points out why traditional means of thinking, where, people will find a new job, or people will move the marketplace over here. And for some, yes, and for others, no. And he explains why much more in depth. And once again, I just can't put enough stress on if you are in any way tech savvy, and especially if you're not tech savvy, really encourage you to read the book and then share your thoughts on what some of the things he's talking about. And if there's a specific issue that he didn't address about technology, that's definitely worth noting. As I've seen this guy pretty confidently address the major concerns that I think most people would have. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day. And that was Andrew Yang's The War on All People.